Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles Beyond Podcast, moving beyond negativity through human interaction and connection. My name's Miles, the host and creator of the podcast, and this show is centered around walking in your purpose. What I do is I bring on different guests who are either walking in or towards their purpose, that thing, that job, that career, that hobby that their soul is calling them to do. And we analyze different life choices that have led them down this path, the different mindsets and skills that they had to adopt to walk in and thrive in their purpose as well. I'm really excited to get it going with you guys. Make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at the Miles Beyond Podcast. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back. Season two of the Miles Beyond Podcast. I'm so glad to have you guys here. Thank you for waiting with me. As you can see, this has been a big transition and we're going in a new direction. So what I'm doing with this podcast now is that I'm talking to people who are walking in their purpose or towards their purpose. And there are a lot of us out there that, are working that job that they don't like. They have that feeling in their gut that's telling them that they should be chasing a certain goal and they just don't know how to chase it. Well, don't worry. I have the answers for you here. What we're doing from now on is discussing with guests that, have the information necessary to allow you to at least start chasing your goals, start chasing your dreams. And with me today, I have a great guest, one of the day ones from college, from uni, for all my British listeners. I have with me my man, William Evans.
Yes, sir. What's going on? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, bro. I'm feeling good. So real quick, let me just tell the people, who you are, what you do, So, Will, local of Sacramento, Man is an artist, mostly dealing in acting and music. I know a lot of us are trying to get into this, and we just don't know how. But my man has done it. And your goal, like you said or you sent me, is through music is education and providing art that is both conscious while remaining beautiful to people, right?
Mm. Yes, sir.
So go into that a little bit.
Yeah, that's. So a little bit about my background as far as like art is concerned. Yes, Miles was right that acting and music are my primary things. The reason why I say provide education is because specifically a lot of people don't know the history behind a lot of the things that they may watch or consume, which is very interesting to me. Facts. Because I feel as though if you learn it, you get a different sense of connection to the artwork versus just being able to look at it simply for the fact that it is a beautiful piece of artwork. But if something has meaning, I think to me, and having the education behind that makes it just a tad bit more beautiful. Not necessarily in a just aesthetic way, but just like a fuller picture, if that's what I'm saying. And that's how I kind of want to use the art that I have, is to create like the whole picture, not just like a specific lane that you have to necessarily stick to, but the fact that I can bring all of these things together and educate people about that.
Dang, bro. I mean, what I've seen, right? So, like I said, you and I are day ones from college. Had a great bond going through that whole college mess, I would call it. But yeah, it took you a minute to find your way, I feel like, because the acting didn't come in freshman year. I think you started, junior year that you started acting? Or was it sophomore year?
It was sophomore year. I started acting with, I don't know if you remember Crozier or Dan Crozier.
Yeah.
From Communicate. Yeah, I started working with him. And interestingly enough, the story behind I started acting is I stopped playing football. You remember we both played football together. Right. So right after I stopped playing American football for all his
to clarify,
American football for all the folks out there. But we played football together, and then after that, it just wasn't working out. I just didn't have the love for football anymore, and
I know the
I
feeling.
wasn't really getting any playing time.
Yeah.
And then sophomore year, when we moved in together, I was trying to I was just trying to find my way, and an acting class just kind of popped up, and then from that point I kind of found my not just my voice, but just overall it's been like a good therapeutic
Exactly.
method for me.
Exactly. So let's define that a little bit. That acting, what it is for you, right? So you mentioned therapeutic. You mentioned you found your voice. Do you think you had any idea of before you joined this class that like acting was where you wanted to go? Did you ever have like a little inclination, maybe a gut feeling, that kind of thing?
No, not acting specifically. I've always loved to do art, but I'll be honest,
Yeah.
like growing up, art wasn't the thing. It's like
Yeah, I
I'm a
get you.
physical guy. I'm a physical guy. I mean, Miles has met me. So it's like they were like sports.
Yeah.
Sports.
Yeah.
So you're gonna play sports, right? You're not gonna literally when I was a kid, like literally they wouldn't even think about any type of art or anything like that. They just be like, "What sport do you want to play?"
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean.
And for
Yeah.
yeah, listen, because you also are artist too. For all the people out there who don't know, Miles is a great artist.
Thank you.
I had his art for him. I had his artwork for a long time, but when I moved out here, I had to give some of that up, and it was sad. It was a very sad day. But besides that, no, it wasn't. It wasn't a. It was interesting because no, it wasn't a thing, but it was such a form fitting thing. It was like hand in glove fit once I got in there. And then that from there I moved on to doing like improv for a couple years.
Right,
and,
right.
Just kind of stick with that.
Dang, man. I could definitely tell that you needed. What I could tell, like you and I roomed together for that year. I mean, I spent most of the time outside the room, because man was locked up
okay.
in a little thing, but but I think for me, after you start playing football, and I know what that feeling of losing the love for it is like as well, because I stopped playing later on, but I felt like you did need that voice. Like you had this identity with you for so long, and I guess we're here to give advice and information to the people listening.
Yeah.
So how did you feel losing that identity of being that sporty person? Because you're very athletic. Football was a big part of your life. Athletics, track as well. So what was that feeling like of losing that identity?
Honestly, it was like a crisis, man. Like I felt like my entire identity to that point was, I'm an athlete. I do school sometimes, but for the most part, I've been an athlete. Like I've only been seen as an athlete. I've been seen as an athlete. I've been seen as just overall like a community leader. And then without one of those things, it felt like the other wasn't necessarily complete. Right. So when I lost football, man, I was just like literally. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do school," but like football was the only thing that actually made me feel worth it. So once I lost that, it was like, okay, how do I replace this with something that is not like an unhealthy habit, right? Because I still like working out, I still like doing stuff like that, but it was just like I can't necessarily keep putting my body and my mind through seasons over and over and over again with no end in mind. And then also, too, for all the folks out there, I failed my first semester. So I didn't even get a chance to fully so I didn't even get a chance to fully experience, like, the football thing. And then we worked, and over time, on the team there was politics. So over time, I just was
definitely
beat up by it. So by the time I lost it, it was just like, I don't know, it felt like withdrawal, honestly. It felt like I had been addicted to something for so long, without seeing how much it was actually actively harming me. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, like, now that I look back on it, I wish I would have went to school for something different. I wish I would have went not to play football, honestly. Now that I look at it, I wish I would have been able to go straight to acting versus just, like, doing football. But it all turned out well anyways.
Yeah. I think the great thing about it is that at the end of the day, it will all turn out well. I don't think you would have ended up where you are now without that football experience, because those football politics were real for sure. You had to stay in line, or if not, you're getting kicked out the group basically. But no. The way things happened, it was supposed to happen because you're where you're at now. Now speaking of where you're at now, right? So What's going on, bro? So, what's been going on in your life in the past like 3 years? Like, how did you? So, okay, no, actually, we won't go into that just yet. We'll go into the acting experience in college, because I did a little acting as well. I did my acting class. I worked with the great almighty Brandon Sellers. You know, you guys still in touch?
Brandon Sellers, the homie.
Yeah, man.
Homie,
oh my goodness.
What's the name? You know, that's my that's the homie, bro.
That's the G.
I used to visit him before I moved out here. I was visiting him like every year on my birthday, because I used to go out to Phoenix and just kick it. But man, speaking of Brandon, like I was acting that sophomore year, and then after that I just stopped. I just didn't find anything that was like interesting to me for it. I think I stopped for like a full year, like junior year, because I was going through the fraternity stuff, and so like all that stuff was taking up primarily like most of my time. So I didn't even though like Dan Crozier was asking me like every other day, when am I going to audition for one of the theater folks? I was like, I don't have the time for it.
Right.
But acting in college was a great experience, man. Like, especially towards the end, like our senior year, because that's when I got to do all the projects with Brandon, and we just started racking off projects. Yeah. And then you were also in that process too. I think you were like the third or fourth project, like the third or fourth project that we did, that he did.
Through that project, what was it called again? It was based off of a Kid Cudi song, and it was an amazing project when he put it all together. Like, you know, sometimes when you do acting projects and it's like you see what's being filmed, you see what's being recorded, then they edit it, and then post-production it's like, what is this? You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
But what Brandon did with his work was like you felt what you felt while you were acting, while watching the project. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, 100%. The one reason why I love working with Brandon is because I got a chance to I don't have to like pretend or like overact or anything like that. I can just come in there and he lets me kind of just like free. For me, I love the fact that he just let me improv. Honestly, biggest thing is being able to just add some elements that will make the story just a little bit better. But him allowing me to do that, and me and him we were roommates, so we were that was why we worked so specific together, because like we were roommates and we would just like bounce ideas off of each other pretty much like all day. Just what about this? What about this? What about that? And so like that was the process that was like that for like maybe an entire year. So I'm ready for that. Shout out to Brandon.
Yeah, shout out to him, man. I gotta get him on soon, because he is putting in work, and that's the definition of walking in your purpose. That guy's doing well. But let's switch off of that subject. So you start acting in college. You know, you do a lot of projects with Brandon. You and I did a project together with Brian and Colton as well. R.I.P. Brian, but you know, we did projects with them.
Brian Hill, bro.
Yeah, that one was tough. But we did that, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Like, we did so much. How would you say, right, your work? So in that moment, you're walking in your purpose. You know, because it's basically what you're doing now as well. You're walking in your purpose. Yep. How did you feel differently from, you know, you just started, you're not really sure, you just took the acting class, to senior year graduation, you've been this and this project, you know? What was the feeling?
Well, the reason why I was able to do most of that stuff is because I'll go back to Dan Crozier. Dan Crozier is the first person who had confidence in me. He literally at one point like, sat me aside, and he was like, you know, I don't really believe in people having like talent like that, but you have something. And for me at the time, like, and that's the thing about like walking in your purpose. Like, you don't know what works until like you kind of realize what it's like without it. And so I did that class.
That's a nice one.
I did that class.
Yeah.
I did that class, and I was like, I love this, but you know, I have traditional parents, so like at the time I'm still kind of mentally bound to where my parents are. Like at that point in my life, I'm still what,
Right.
19, 20
Right.
years old. So it was like five years ago. So it's like I'm still kind of connected to the idea of me in their eyes, essentially. And for a long time, that was the thing that kind of kept me from fully going into acting or doing all the stuff that I'm doing now, rather.
Yeah.
Because I was
Yeah.
always like, you know, like I really grew up respecting my parents and respecting the work that they did, and I didn't want to feel like I was wasting that, right? I was wasting that opportunity on something like acting, which, you know, in their mind is like, that's not guaranteed money. That's not,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
That's not something that's sustainable, essentially. So for a long time, I just really didn't take it. I don't even think until maybe like last year, I didn't start taking it like super seriously. Like, this is the thing that I wanted to do, because I was like, obviously, like, I have my parents, but then also too, like, the money situation too. Like, I gotta I gotta get paid.
You gotta pay bills. You gotta eat. Yeah.
So that's the feeling that I have when I do acting, and whenever I do like music or anything like that, is that like I know that well, one, I can do it for free. I don't really care. That's the thing about me. Like, I'm not really big on the whole money thing. Like, as long as it pays my rent, I don't really care. And two, like, I do it because I've spent so much time without it. Like, I spent so much time without this thing that it's making me complete. It's making me fulfilled, regardless of which specific projects. Because here's the thing about folks who want to do acting, like, it's just like any other type of job, right? So you gotta start at the low level. You gotta like grind it out for a little bit. You gotta do some short projects. You gotta do like a couple TikTok videos. You gotta do some stuff like that. Because you gotta necessarily, because here's the thing too, like with me, I'm fortunate. I'm extremely fortunate individual to be able to like move out to California and be able to do the things that I do. But I've been able to find like lucky spots, right? So for me, it was all about making my way at a certain point. Because eventually, like, even if you don't hit gold, you'll hit silver, right? And if you don't hit silver, you'll hit copper. You know what I'm saying? All valuable materials, depending on who's using them. So that's kind of how I feel whenever I do acting. Is that it's a whole thing for me. Like, it's like a piece of me goes missing if I don't do it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's definitely the definition of like your soul being content. You know what I mean? Like, that's a piece of you. Like, you know, I'll ask you a question, but before that, I wanted to point out what you said, that, you know, if it isn't gold, it's silver. If it's in silver, it's copper. That's that mentality of like just never quitting. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of people, you know, come into life and they expect the best of the best. If they don't get the best of the best, they quit, and then they're depressed. That's it. You know what I mean? But the truth about life and walking in your purpose as well is that you have to keep walking, you know, and taking every little challenge, every little piece of advice, every little thing you receive, because it will boost you. You learn from it, you know, no matter what it is, you're going to learn from it. So, I mean, I love what you said. That's amazing. That's a great way to put it. I'm going to put in one of the little Instagram quote things for sure. You know?
Yep.
But my other question was, I hope I can remember it now. I just forgot. Shoot. But anyway, we'll move on to another question. So my other question for you was then, so those 3 years outside of college, right? What was the story like? So you said, you know, you were not taking acting as seriously. What were you doing? How were you feeling on the inside, you know? And then you get into it, and also the music as well. We can start going into that as well. How did you feel during that process? 3 years.
Man, so another crisis, post-graduation crisis. So you kind of have to like figure out your whole way.
Gosh.
Like that's the thing, man. Like, once you graduate college, all the expectations you may necessarily have had, even if you did have internships, if you had all types of stuff that you were doing, you were going overseas. the reality is that I worked retail as soon as I got back out of college. Like I was back working retail after 4 years of 4 years of grinding at Allegheny College. So it's like
it's not easy
for me. Like I was just like I just did all these 4 years. I just spent all this time in the snow, all this time walking through blizzards, going to class despite all of that, like. Walking up hills, you know what I'm saying? Like, I did all of this just to be working retail again. And I'm just like, fam, what is happening? So that first year was a long one. And then 2020, obviously, 2021, obviously what happened there, pandemic. So that shut everything off. But one thing that like, happened in that time was that I was working at the State Department at the time. And I was trying to get into the State Department. I was trying to work at the State Department for a long time. I even went as far as to going into the Army. Like I had went through the whole process. Like up to I shaved my whole face off, shaved my hair off. Like I was prepared. Like I was working out to go to the Army. But interestingly enough, when I was working out, I was just like, something's telling me that this is probably not going to work out the way that I think it would. And then
at the end of the day,
went through the whole recruitment process, went through the whole thing, and then I got accepted at the actual in-person board, but then got denied when they sent my stuff off, when they sent my package off.
Wow.
So I was at the time. So it was interesting because I was on the bus going back home when my recruiter called me, and I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to be sad, but I'm not. I feel like I'm actually pretty happy that I didn't go through with this.
Yeah.
So. From there, man, but it was long. It was a long process after that, man. It was just a long 2 years because it was just like a combination of me like moving out here in the middle. I moved to California in the middle of the pandemic, like August 2020. So it was a daunting task. It was a bold move to move in the middle of a pandemic, but it was the cheapest time to do it.
Right.
I came out here as a volunteer in 2020, August 2020. Wasn't really making any money. I was not making any money. Do you understand me? Like,
dang,
I was getting paid $1,000 an hour. I was getting paid not $1,000 an hour, $1,000 a month. I was getting paid $1,000 a month.
Jeez.
And I got like a $300 stipend. So like my apartment that I live in right now is like 14. So essentially all my money is going straight to my rent,
straight into rent. Yeah.
And you know, fortunately for my parents, they were cool enough to like give me like give you some money at the end of the month. But in California, that money goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Like,
Cali's expensive.
I was on EBT. I was on EBTs. Like I was going through it, and then I found this job that I work at now, which is I work at this company called Weave, which is a nonprofit that serves victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and sex trafficking. And with them, they gave me they paid me enough to where I can have a comfortable enough time, like being able to do all the other stuff that I was doing for a long time. Because even though I wasn't making any money, like my acting class was thank you for them, because they have like it's like a $25 class at the time. So I'm taking these acting classes, and the guy at the time at Claudio is one of the he's honestly like an interesting person, because like, you know, Brie Larson from
Brie Larson,
that's her acting professor. And I don't know if you know who Greta Gerwig is either. But he unfortunately from Lady Bird or whatever that movie is. But unfortunately he passed away in March. But
oh wow, okay.
But it was interesting being able to like meet him and getting to know him like that, because he was a genius overall. And from there, like the acting class that I've had, I found a perfect acting class too. Like I was fortunate enough, like, man, I gotta say, like, a lot of what makes somebody successful in general is just, you know what I mean? One, being a good person, and two, being extremely fortunate. Like, those two things, like, people to talk about, like, people always talk about, like, oh, you gotta get into the meeting with no, just be a good person. Like,
that's it.
Be a
that's
decent
it.
human being. Like, like, you don't have to, it's not even, what's the name? Because the thing is ultimately, like, the money will come. As much as like,
it will.
Like,
it will.
And please, believe me, the money did come. Like, I spent 2 years not having money, the money did come. You
Right.
understand? Like everybody, it does eventually come if you just stay consistent. That's the thing. Like the things that you can only do what's in your control. Like, you can be consistent. You can be a consistently good person. Like you can be a consistently like hard working person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing, man. Like if you do those things, like those things are actually like things that are not necessarily like you'll see direct results outside, but on the inside. Because mostly what happens is, and back to your point about when people get frustrated, I almost quit. I almost left here, like straight up.
Yeah.
Like, my first year and a half, literally almost was like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm not making any money. Like I was going through a relationship that was like super stressful at the time. Like I was like, oh brother, like I'm going back home. But I found a better job.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like if you're able to, man, like if you can hold off just enough, that lucky spot will eventually come.
It will.
And it may not necessarily be like $1 million or any bullshit like that, because that's not feasible. But just having some relief, you get relief at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially because like I was able to find people too. Like I spent, I think, like 2 years around Sacramento just walking around and meeting people, just going in places and just making myself just like a known person. But that's how all of that.
That's really interesting, you know. So like, first of all, just to ask about your last point, right? Going in and meeting people, would you call yourself an extroverted person?
I would say that I'm a combination of both. It's mostly because like I'm an extroverted person when it comes to like meeting people, but I do enjoy my space and do enjoy my personal time. But I think that's how we all are to a certain degree. Like I think you can be an extrovert just depending on the situation. It just has to be like if you're a person that's like a person who enjoys their personal time more than being out around people, you may find yourself wanting to be in smaller groups versus like being in a bigger place. So I think it just depends, honestly. I think it just depends on the social setting for me. Because if it's a bigger crowd, like I can call myself an introvert in like a massive crowd and a massive party. Because I don't like massive amount of people. But if you give me a room full of like a decent crowd, I'm gonna be just fine. Yeah. Small crowd, I'm gonna be just fine. Yeah. So I think it just depends on who you are. I think for me, I would say that I'm more leaning towards extrovert versus an introvert. Yeah. I'm a nice mixture. Nice balance.
So would you say a skill required to walk in your purpose is kind of like, you don't have to be the most extroverted person or, you know, go to the biggest parties or biggest networking opportunities. But, you know, I feel like what you did was, if you see an opportunity that not fits what works for you, but see an opportunity that you know that you can at least handle yourself in, you go for it, right?
Yeah, I would say that. And two, just be curious. Be curious about like other stuff.
Yeah, dropping gems,
honestly, bro. Really what it is just like be curious about like other information, like what's outside of your circle. Like if you have the ability to learn about another culture, another dialect, another person's history, or get to meet people and talk to people about their history, about their livelihood, about that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Just consistently being curious about like, not necessarily even like, because this is the thing too about, I think it's not about what's next. It's about what you do. Okay. Exactly. Because what's next is whatever you do. Whatever you choose to do is going to be the next thing. Like it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't even have to be about what's next. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like,
simple.
What do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? Like, it doesn't. It's not even about like, because mostly when people think about success, they don't think about it in terms of like what will work best for them. Yeah, they just see something necessarily like, oh, somebody has a lot of money, somebody has a lot of status, somebody has a lot of whatever. But they could also be miserable. You understand me? Like they could be absolutely miserable, having millions of dollars. And so for me, that's why I always talk. That's why back to the education point that I talk about. Like I am a very curious person. I mean, you know, because we were roommates.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I was just spent watching random like informational YouTube
Right,
videos,
right.
just, like, scrolling through. Like that was most of my shit. So for me, like being curious about other people, meeting people, being kind to people, like those are my rules. Just be a kind individual. Do for other people, not necessarily because you want. And this is the thing about being successful too. Like sometimes you got to take the hit on the chin on your pay. Like sometimes your profit has to take a hit, because ultimately your goal should be to meet as many people and to cultivate as many relationships, not to make money.
Exactly.
And sometimes that has nothing to do with how much money you make. Sometimes that just has to do with how long the conversation is, how deep the conversation goes. And ultimately you'll get something more fulfilling out of that than any money that they could give to you.
Yeah, honestly, you don't like what I've even gotten from your whole story so far in terms of going into acting is that, you know, first of all, you didn't even know that's what you really wanted to do, but somebody pushed you in that direction because they told you they believed in you, right? Some things I think we tend to think because of the society we live in now that we can just do it on our own, you know what I mean? Because you'll hear about this YouTube guy that was just in his room recording videos and all that stuff. But no, networking is important. You need to expand your community because some things you just can't get by yourself. It's that simple, you know? Some things you just don't know on your own. You need to expand your community. That's a big lesson right there, you know? That's amazing, bro. So now, right, man, you really had a journey there. The army as well, dang. You know, like, and there was that gut feeling telling you that, like, this isn't right, bro. You know what I mean?
This another one.
This just
one, and that's the thing, man. Like you gotta like, and as cliche as it is to say, like, go with your gut. If it doesn't feel right, that's okay. Like that's probably telling you that hey.
Yeah.
You may want to try something different because this may not work out. You'll be miserable, dog.
Yeah.
I would rather be doing something that I like for low pay and not be miserable than to get paid a lot for something that I'm miserable doing.
Yeah.
And you know that sounds crazy to a lot of people to say, and trust me, like I make a decent amount of money doing the stuff that I do. So it's like as long as I can do what I want to do, like that's how much money I need, and that's just how I think about it. Regardless of that, the best way to be good at something is to actually love that thing. To actually to get success in something, you actually have to care about it because the people who absorb it will understand that you don't care.
Right.
Like you don't really care. You don't care about the product that you're I'll put it like this, like, you know, they gonna throw me under the bus for this. But Marvel movies, right? They're gonna throw me under the bus for this, but Marvel movies. If you look at how even the early Marvel movies were made, like the first Iron Man or whatever, right?
I see where you're going.
Is when the first one came out. You can tell that the person like Jon Favreau put a lot of time and effort and cultivation into making probably one of the best superhero movies of all time. Like he really cared about every detail about it, like from the storyline to like, you know what I mean, like everything was cultivated. Versus like now. Unfortunately, it's a very copy and paste kind of situation, right? It's a situation where like you have a it's a trope. Matter of fact, it's a superhero trope. Like you come in, there's the intro, there's the you know everything that's going to happen in the superhero story. Because at this point, you realize that it's not something that you necessarily care about, but people are trying to get to the phase 6 or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not necessarily caring about the movie as an entity and being excited about the movie as a whole.
You're just trying to get through the whole storyline now at this point, you know?
Yeah, you're just trying to get a check. You're trying to make a little bit more money.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, with that money, what do you do with it? You don't do anything with the extra money. I mean, you don't with the money, you don't cultivate new artists. You don't bring anybody in that may be a fresher face. Like you don't do anything like that. And that's the difference between like actually caring about the art and wanting to make money about like money, making money in your purpose versus like actually loving what you do.
Right.
Because like, if you love what you do, you're gonna be just fine. Like collaborating with people.
Exactly.
You're just fine, like not necessarily being the person taking all of the credit.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be just fine passing that down.
Yeah.
When you don't want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay taking on like 2-3 more people to like teach them about this type of stuff too, and so they can teach more people.
Right.
And that ultimately is the goal, right? It should, or I feel that it should be the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
you do your podcast, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how long you would want to do your podcast for forever, but so I'm pretty sure you would be like, okay, I'm gonna bring on an assistant to kind of do this with me, or something like that. And then eventually, when I want to do something else, this is there. Like they have their own situation. They have. Like,
Yeah.
You not only want it to be like a part of you get, and it's the thing. Like most people don't know that. Like you get more credit for like having proteges. Like
Yeah.
you get more fulfillment out of having people who are like, I know what I know because that person was cool enough to like let me in on all the stuff that they didn't know when they were
exactly.
and honestly that's how I got to where I am in Sacramento. Like if we're moving forward to where I got to Sacramento, like where I'm at now, as far as how I got here, I started doing. I'll tell people like January was the first time I actually was able to like come outside and like do stuff because it was the pandemic.
Right,
like
right.
So it was the first time where I was able to like my hair was growing out a little bit, so it was like it's the first time people really getting a chance to like see me and like meet me for the first time.
Yeah.
And you know that I dress up and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
People got
you got the style, bro.
People got hooked on all that. Yeah, people got hooked on all the outfits. And people started having conversations with me and stuff like that. And I just used to just hang out.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, man. You don't like if you wanna walk in your purpose, you gotta just hang out sometimes. Like it sucks.
Yeah.
And like you wanna hurry up and push the button, but nah, just be patient, dog. It's all good.
Patience
just enjoy
is the key.
time. Honestly, like because like it's not going anywhere. And that's the thing too. It's not going anywhere. Like success is not a thing that happens at like 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, or 50.
Nah.
Like, success is consistent. Like it can happen at any time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But as long as you still got like, you still a good person. That's what matters most to me.
Yeah, honestly, based on what I'm hearing, and you might say, nah, that might not be true, but I can see or tell that you have met success. You know, based on what you are saying, that it's consistent, it grows with you, but you have met a level of success. There's another one coming, but you've met a level of success. You know, that's a beautiful way to put it, man. That's a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And man, you've dropped so many gems in this one, bro. I don't even like. I have so much to build on now, you know, based off of this. But like, let me ask you something. So, in terms of the outfits, I've always known you, Will, as like the stylish one. Remember, I asked you. Remember, you told me the shoes need to match the belt. What else? What's another rule you told me?
Oh God,
bro, because
listen, man.
That was one thing about you that just stuck out, right? I feel like you love your style as well, you know, and it's you represent it well, you know. So in terms of the style, in terms of the music, like what are the other things you're doing apart from acting, right? And then we'll go into your project that you're doing now and all that stuff later on. But how did you get into the music? How did you get into the style? Because that started a while back, you know. How did that happen?
Yeah. So it was interesting starting about the style. I was not a very fashionable person in high school. I'll be completely honest. But then I started working retail. I started working my first job was working at a men's clothing store. Essentially, it was Perry Ellis. I don't know if the European folks remember that one. But I was working at Perry Ellis and I was doing that for a while. It was cool. I got to learn all about like clothes and like materials.
Yeah.
But the biggest change that happened this is all before high school. Like right before I went, I worked at Steve Madden, and I worked in a staff of all women.
Oh, okay.
I worked in a staff of all women, and these women put me on. They was like, "Don't wear this. Try this on. Those shoes don't work."
Mad.
And then they started not just about my own style. But they put me on to women's style. Women's style is the reason why I dress the way that I do, because like women's fashion is like the best thing ever. My God.
Yeah.
Then it's gonna tie into something that I just got done doing. But that's how I got in the style. I got in the style because I paid a lot of attention to like and also I'm just a naturally curious person, so I'm like, not just the style, but like, what's the history? Like, where do suits come from? Like, who made the suit? Like, why do these dress shoes look the way that they do? What were these dress shoes like originally for? Like, what was all this history stuff? And so the more that I'm learning about all this stuff, the more I'm learning about like the colors and the reason why people use like certain things. It ultimately came to a point where I learned about this concept, right? This fashion concept called sprezzatura, right? Which essentially, just to dumb it down, essentially is a process from where you make yourself look effortless. Like, you try your hardest to look effortless. I'm sure that people don't screw with this, but essentially that's the concept that I kind of go with. My style was really based off of like the movies that I loved. Honestly, like, I love 70s movies, I love 80s movies, I love 90s movies. Like, I love dark movies, and even like movies now today. Like, I love like A24 movies. Like, I love movies that are just off, you know what I mean? And because of that, it allowed me to kind of like run out my style, right? So, and then all of that style stuff ended up leading to like the music stuff, ironically, because I'm a DJ for the most part. I literally, that's funny because I literally just had so I'm just. Before I got on the podcast, I woke up this morning. I was like, "Good Lord!" I was like, "I got to do Miles' podcast." But just had a set last night. Had a set on Friday. But I got into that because I was trying to just I was bored. I wanted to find like another another art form, because I was doing photography for a minute, but that wasn't really fulfilling me the way that I wanted it to. But then I went into a record store and I was already shopping for like vinyl and and they had a class. They had a class on. It was like a free DJing class, and I was just learning how to spin. And then I got on there, and one of the dudes over there, shout out to DJ Fooders, shout out to the good people from 12's Wax. They taught me how to DJ. Straight up, they just like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Oh, bro, I'm just a random." I'm random.
Wow.
So you can teach me, but I was like, I don't. And that's the thing too. Like, for me, I don't care. Like, it's whatever. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to DJ from there, and then over time I started DJing more. And actually, it's funny because most people don't know. Like, I started DJing in what month is it? It's April. I started DJing in April.
Wow, look at that.
I started DJing in April to where I am now is kind of like, it's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
Because when I started DJing, most people didn't know that I mean, you listen to my music, so most of the music that I listened to, I always felt that it didn't work. So when I got into meeting the people that I know now, they made me feel like, oh, the music that I do does work. The music that I play does work in a setting, like a club setting or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, oh, then the leash is off now. Oh, I'm here.
There you go.
Shout out to Fernando. Shout out to Diarmus. Shout out to every DJ in Sacramento, man. Because without them, I wouldn't be able to do any of the stuff that I'm doing now. They got me a residency at the bar that I'm working at now. Yeah. Like, they give me a solid residency. I got a chance to do one of the bigger events downtown because of that. Like, amazing. I got the DJ. Like, it was a downtown event. Like, Sacramento's like biggest Juneteenth event outside of the one over in Oak Park, which is the historically black district. But yeah, I get a chance to do stuff like that. Right now, I'm working on a Sunday dinner with one of the restaurants around here. One of the Thai food restaurants. And so I'm doing stuff like that. Also, just in general, like, I know all the artists in the community. So I think that was my thing. Like, I've always kind of seen myself as a bridge between things, like bridging everything together at once. Whether it be in college, like bridging, not necessarily me personally bridging your specific Nigerian heritage and everything that you brought culturally to Allegheny, but I was really invested in that. Yeah, because I was like, definitely, I fuck with that because you are different. I was like, oh, Miles needs to be able to fully express himself in his specific kind of culture as well. So it's always been like my biggest thing. So, but yeah, I'm a DJ. Like, yesterday I just did a runway thing for one of the homies. Sam. I just did his fashion show. And so for me, I'm just fortunate, man. I think for me, I'm able to do all these things.
Yeah.
Mostly because of the group of people that I have around me, and that they didn't want me to be something else that I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They wanted me to be me. They liked my specific style, my specific aesthetic, the way that I dress, the way that I talk, the way that I walk, like all that type of stuff. And they didn't ask me to change anything. Well, one, because I wasn't going to change anything, and two, because like that's important too. Like that's very important as far as like finding your success, because ultimately success comes when you find your own voice. And this is the thing too, like your voice can be similar to somebody else. Like you know how many artists that sound like similar, that may remind you of somebody else. Definitely. But at the same time, that should be your opportunity to be like, let me explore some different options.
Exactly.
Let me at least give it a different shot, because at the end of the day, even if you fail, bro, even if you fall flat on your face, you can take solace in the fact that you tried.
That's it. It's that simple.
Because you know that you can try again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how long it may take, regardless of how long, because you realize how close you were to that goal.
Right.
And that the goal's not that far off, because if you were a kind person on the way, like if you were treating everybody with like the same kind of humanity, and you weren't just like a complete, like the reason why you got shut out is solely because like of the timing, not because of who you were as a person, then you can take pride in that, versus like, oh, they didn't like, or placing blame on somebody else's situation for the way that you may have behaved. And that's how I got into all the stuff that I did. I just started talking. My homie Fernando, my homie Fernando, I just went up to him, and I was just like, I like your music, man. Like, I like your music. Like, and he was cool enough to be like, yeah, man, like this, and this. And then we just branched off into a conversation about movies and everything like that, because I'm just interested in knowing people.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all I'm doing.
So it literally, what I'm picking up from this was all from being curious, right? This was all from just wanting to expand. 100%. You know what I mean? Just wanting to expand your knowledge. Because even, when we were in college together, you were really invested in my Nigerian heritage. And I was like, you had this, like, people wanted to be around you, Will, because you made them feel like, oh, there's something I can give to him. You know what I mean? And he's not just taking it in because he wants to be popular or something like that. Like, he's really invested in learning this, But yeah, bro, I feel that all the way, and I'm happy to hear about your career so far. I mean, it's like you're basically going on an extremely positive trend, and this is all from just, oh, I see a free class, let me taking the opportunity. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever failed? And if so, this is in the past, like, okay, when things start going again, right? Because we've gone about, like, you not walking in your purpose. But have you ever failed recently? Yeah. How did that go? What happened? How did you feel as well?
Oh yeah, man. I had one of the worst acting performances of my life.
Wow.
Maybe like last month.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a rough time too, because at the time my cousin had just passed away. Like,
jeez.
I had like a full breakdown at work, because my job is hard. So I had to take some time off, and during that time I had an acting performance, and it was one of the worst performances that I've ever had in my life. Not necessarily because overall it was bad, but to me, I care so much about my work, and I care so much about the show, that I was just like, I felt like I just like messed this whole thing up. And so I'll be honest, like I didn't handle it well at first. I'm not gonna lie, didn't handle it well. Like when I walked out, I like socked the door on the way out because I was so mad at myself. Yeah. And I was just like, I was just mad. Like I was just like, yo, like what just happened? Like I hadn't, because I did it literally like maybe the week before. Yeah. Literally the same performance the week before. It was just a re-up. And so I took that time, and I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and figure my shit out. Yeah. Because it was just that time. I took the rest of that time to just figure it out. And then the one thing that got me out of it is I had a DJ set like right after that. So I was already, what's the name? But I had a good DJ set. Yeah. And so because I had that good DJ set, I was like, oh, I just shook it off. Because the thing is that when I fail, I always try to do something small that makes it like, that I succeed in. You know what I mean? Like because ultimately it's just really about taking the failure and just using it as a purpose to like learn from it.
Exactly.
Honestly. Like
exactly.
Because you don't necessarily like you don't know, like did you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? No. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you failed. Simply because you could always try again.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you could always try again. Even if it's in a different opportunity. If that opportunity passes, there's always going to be a different opportunity in a different spot.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's also about finding this is the thing, like luck is dependent on what place that you live in. You live I don't know what part of you live in
London.
Like London proper, or do you live in just in the general area?
No, in London.
So like you live in London, right? A very metropolitan area. So you live in a metropolitan area, right? So the likelihood that you may be able to find somebody or find events or find stuff like situations like that, it's highly likely.
Yeah.
Highly likely.
Yeah.
So for a person that may necessarily like me, I grew up, and that's the thing too. Like a lot of people, I'm from Ohio. I'm born in Ohio.
Yeah.
I was born in Ohio. I was born in Ohio. I was raised in Virginia, and I live in California. And it's all because my mom always promoted that too. My mom always promoted like just get out and do stuff. It doesn't matter if you get paid for it. It doesn't matter if you do. You can always get something from something. That's literally what she always taught me. You can always get something, even if you don't think that you're going to use it. You can always get something from somebody.
That's beautiful.
Something from something. And because like that's ultimately what success is just finding a bunch of stuff that you like. Honestly, like if you want my biggest thing about success, like it's just finding like what feels right. You know what I mean? What fulfills you on a daily basis. When you wake up in the morning, do you feel fulfilled? Whether if you're working as a middle person, whether you're working as do you feel fulfilled? Are you getting compensated properly? Are you your right to being taken care of? All that type of stuff. Because that's the thing about me too. I'm a big workers' rights advocate too. Like that's my biggest thing. So it's like for me, when people ask me how do I find success, it's because like I know what I'm looking for. I know exactly what I'm looking for as far as like the conditions that I want to work in, the type of people that I want to be around. Like these are the type of things that I built it off of. And for me, if the people around me don't necessarily have that same kind of like mindset, which is the only thing that I necessarily agree with about that whole kind of framing, is that like people, you do have to have people around you that not necessarily the same kind of mindset in the sense that like they are all like driven, goal driven, all that type of stuff. But no, are they all interested in helping people? Because ultimately, like helping people lends itself to success as well. Like, are they interested in helping people? Are they interested in like sitting in at community meetings? Are they interested in just investing their time, not their money, but literally just investing their time into people, regardless of whether I can get paid from it or not. And that's the thing. Like once you stop thinking about how much you're gonna get paid, in the sense that like making millions and a bunch of money or whatever, versus being like, am I being accurately compensated for the work that I am? Am I right to be taken care of? Then you can find yourself like, okay, I don't necessarily have to worry about making millions because like I know what I know what kind of money I'm looking for. I know what trips I want to take. For instance, like I know what stuff that I want to get for my kids. Like I know what kind of house that I want. I know what kind of apartment that I want. Those are tangible goals. Those are things that you can work towards. Versus like you can't work your way to $1 million. I'm sorry to anybody out there. You literally cannot physically work your way to $1 million without getting lucky at least a couple times.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
What do you want? Like, what kind of house do you want? What do you want to? Do you want to collect records? Do you want to? What hobbies do you like? How much money does it take to get to those hobbies? What resources do you have at your disposal that you can get closer to?
Exactly.
Those are the things that, and if it doesn't work, there are other resources.
What you just said is clarifying the fact that people should not be chasing money. They should be chasing the things that they want to get with money, basically, because money is a tool at the end of the day. Chasing that, I want to be a millionaire. Why do you want to be a millionaire? What are you going to do with $1 million or pounds or whatever? You know what I mean? What are you going to do with that? Honestly, bro, you have so much wisdom. Throughout this whole podcast, we're getting towards the end now, but throughout this whole podcast, usually, I talk I talk back a little bit more than I did now, or in fact a lot more sometimes, but I barely had to say anything because you just you killed it, bro, honestly. But I'll ask you this last question before we go, right? So somebody comes to you, maybe that young college graduate that, you know, going back into retail, might not want to do acting or DJing specifically, but just know that this isn't the right thing for me, you know? And they come to you and they ask you, Will, what is that first step to take to walk in my purpose? What do you tell them in 2 sentences?
Find yourself first. Because you can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere trying to be somebody else.
Yeah.
As a person who pretended to be somebody else for a long time. As a person
Facts.
who know what it's like to literally have to move different places and go different places all my life. I had to act like a different person. I have to be a different person when I moved from Ohio to Virginia to Tennessee, to Tennessee back to Virginia, to Virginia to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's tiring. Just, what do you like to do? Who are you? That's what I would be like. Who are you first before you decide where you want to go? Because ultimately, like, you'll waste a bunch of steps if you don't know who you are first.
Exactly.
Because you'll spend time finding who you are first before you get to the ultimate thing. And I know, because like I wish I would have just straight up did acting after college. I wish I would have straight up did that. But that's the thing, like it also takes some time for some people too. Like, don't rush it either. Like, don't rush it. Find yourself, man. That's it. That's all. And ask questions.
Ask questions as well. Dang, man. Very well put. Yeah. Even for me, you know, finding myself was also a challenge, you know. Going to different countries, going to different states within those countries, all those kinds of things. Like, when I found myself, and finding yourself is loving yourself, you know, because you're investing in the things that you like to do. This is where this came from. You know, it took me, like I've always said, it took me 2 years to start this podcast. I filmed the first episode 2 years before I aired it, because I was still trying to figure out who I am and what I wanted to do. Here we are. You know what I mean? So honestly, bro, it's been an amazing episode. I thank you so much. You dropped so many gems. Gosh, Will, dang. Maturity is a crazy thing, you know. It's only been 3 years. It's only been 3 years, my man.
Yeah, 25 is an interesting year. 25 is
let's see what happens.
I'm telling you, man. It's that's what I'm saying.
No problem,
Thank you for having me on here.
No problem, my man.
It's been a pleasure.
You guys, you know, picked up on a bunch of nuggets here, and everybody, you know, Will is talking from the heart. You guys, like, listen, take it in, and you know, until the next time, I've been Miles, your host. This has been Will Evans, you know, and we look forward to having you in the next episode.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Keep moving beyond that negativity through human connection and interaction, and enjoy the music.